Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Community FC. We've got a brand new series for you now. We're going to be talking about people's clubs and why they support them. So this series is, funnily enough, going to be called My Club. So I'm going to have guests on and people that we know and people that we don't know to talk about their football clubs, why they support them, football stories from down the line. I'm just really interested to find out why people support their clubs. I think that's one of the nice parts about football, hearing the stories of, family stories or funny stories, all kinds of things, and talking about why they love their clubs. So anyway, we've got a familiar face on the show for the roundup review, people that have seen it anyway. So we've got with us Richard again. Hi, Rich.
Hi, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Excited to be on to the new show.
The new show. And I mean, we've talked about it before. We know whose clubs is whose. As you can see, he's wearing his top right now. So the first episode is going to be Southampton. So we're going to be talking about the Saints. So I've kind of got a list of questions I've got prepared that are kind of just going to guide this conversation, if you will. And we're just going to talk about everything at Southampton. So this episode is basically you. I'm just here to steer.
That's cool. Fine with me. That's fine with me.
So, yeah, Southampton, the Saints. So let's talk about it. So the first question, I think, is probably quite a generic one for some people, but I'm just going to ask it anyway, which is going to be, why do you support your club?
Well, the short story is it's a familiar sort of supporting of Southampton. This is so my dad, the Saints fan. My brother's a Saints fan. My uncle's a Saints fan. My granddad was a Saints fan.
Mm-hmm.
He used to work down on the docks. So it's just always been in the family. Growing up, my dad and my uncle used to go to the Dell quite a lot in the 70s and 80s, and back in the hooligan days, I've heard a few little stories from those two. But yeah, it's just been it's the family club. And I guess we never really thought about choosing our own clubs.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and I, we just kind of
it's in the family, so
yeah, this is it. My wife is a Saints fan now.
Yeah.
So just introduce it. My children will be Saints fans.
Absolutely. And that is, if I don't want to speak out of turn, but that is generally for quite a lot of football fans, especially in England anyway, it is how most families, they pass that down. It is, you support your club because somebody in your family, whether that is a dad, an uncle, a brother, whoever, sister, mum, whoever, they've all supported that club, and it's kind of built into your DNA because you grow up with it. So sometimes you can't even help it because you're just, surrounded by, in this example, Saints things around the house or whatever. Obviously, you've got a nice little selection on the side with you now.
I just raided the shelf that's off camera here, and just to put a few. I've got obviously the scarf from my first ever Saints game.
Cool.
Back in the day.
We'll get onto that.
I've got some Russian dolls that I got in Prague one year.
Amazing.
We've got Pella, Stephen Davis, Sadio Mane, Jose Font, and Dusan Tadic there.
Ooh.
And then we've got some signed pictures. We've got Matt Letizia, Mick Shannon, Franny Benali, Alan Shearer, and Ricky Lambert. Yeah. All
so what and that's the thing we will get onto as well. What club legends and what big names you've just mentioned there, some in the Premier League now and some obviously legends from back in the day. So I mean, yeah, that's great to hear. So I think going on from that, so we've talked about why you support it. Do you want to talk about how long you've supported them?
Well, I guess the moment I could bloody acknowledge what football was.
Yep.
I remember football was always, my dad loves football, so he'd always have the radio on in the car, always listening to Five
classic.
Live, or teletext. I remember a lot of teletext.
Yeah.
Because obviously back in those days, the football wasn't really on the TV that much.
No, not at all.
And we're talking obviously 90s here, so we had obviously Sky, but we didn't have Sky.
Yeah.
So realistically, we'd watch Match of the Day.
Yeah.
In the evenings, and listen to teletext. But yeah, I guess from the moment I could walk, I was kicking a football. You played football with me.
Yeah.
We played a lot of football when we were younger. So yeah, I just think football was my absolute life, as it is for many young boys and girls.
Yeah,
across the
exactly.
country.
You've grown up in it, and you get caught up in it, don't you? You get it's the gust of football, and it just revolves around it. Whether you're watching match of the day, as you said, it's lots of different. It differs how you watch and keep up with football is so different today than it was back in the day. But yeah, exactly, it's all those
Oh
things.
yeah, I couldn't imagine not having access to the internet that we do now
Like watching
to
the
watch
games
all
today,
the
you'd be like,
football.
of course I'm going to watch the game.
Yeah, like I just watch a game on my phone.
Yeah.
If I'm out somewhere,
You're keeping
it's
up
not
through all
unusual for me
different.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, at my wedding we played Newcastle that day, so
Yeah.
well, might have had that on my phone a little bit.
But
So
even just having unlike teletext, even just having the scores on like live score or any other apps, like you just keep up with it constantly and you're surrounded by like even checking like obviously not going to go into it too much, but like checking like fantasy league and stuff, you're constantly with football today and just all about it. So but yeah, so from a very young age and a family driven support. So I guess what's the next good one to go on to? I'm trying to kind of do them and build this story of Rich the Southampton fan. So I mean, I guess we'll jump to this one actually, because you said been for a very long time. I mean, do you go to a lot of games?
not as many as I'd like, honestly. There was a stage probably coincided with us getting promoted again, where I managed to go to about 8 or 9 games a season.
Wow. Yeah.
The thing for me has always been the kind of financial side of it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's obviously an expensive day out. This season I went to the Wolves game.
Yep.
I'm going to the Leeds game next week, and hopefully should be able to get a few more games this season as well.
Yep.
And build on that as well, because as I said, my wife is a Saints fan now. She comes to games with me, so it's more of a bit of a day out.
100%. Yeah, that's really nice.
So yeah, definitely. When I was younger, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so going to games was pretty much like
absolutely.
It wasn't really a
expensive
thing
day
we
out
could
to do for a family event.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, especially because my brother's a Saints fan as well, so it's not like just me and my dad could go.
Yeah.
We got 4 tickets pretty much there, because you can't then leave a mum out or anything. So
absolutely, and that's something that I'm hoping to touch on in the My Club series, and it's for a positive view on it as well. Is that football, again, we've said, Community FC, it's about community, and football is for everyone. And it doesn't matter if you are, a fan of a club for a particular reason or not. Like if you're a fan of the club, you're a fan of the club. And people shouldn't look down on other people. And I see it a lot online, and that's something I'm trying to point out and kind of go against. That is, if obviously people would like to get to the games if they can, but if you can't get to the games because of financial situations, because of travel situations, because of anything like that, that doesn't make you any less of a fan. So it's great if you can go.
Yeah, let's be honest, football is ridiculously expensive these days.
100%.
It's not like back in the days where you can get a ticket for a £5. When we used to go and watch the local semi-professional team, that used to be what, 4 or 5 quid for a ticket. It's not like that anymore, and it's not just the face value of the ticket. I mean, as a Saints fan, as a Saints fan, I'm looking at around about 35 quid a ticket, and they're not for great seats either. They're kind of in the corners, kind of thing. Then you got to get your transport down there. I mean, luckily I live right next to a train station, so I can just get straight on the train, or I can drive down there. Don't live too far away from Southampton, so it's only about a 40-minute drive for me. So it's not the end of the world, obviously, with petrol and train tickets. Then you've got food and drink, and all of a sudden you're looking at for both the wife and I to go, you're looking at nearly 100 quid day out. And then if you're trying to do that every other weekend.
I mean, and that's what we're trying to, that's what I'm hopefully going to touch on as well, by getting to lots of different levels. Hopefully, I mean, lots of them will be Premier League clubs, but we'll try and get like overseas people involved from different leagues around the world, and like lower league and stuff. And I'm really interested to exactly see that, paint the story of what does a day look like. And it's like getting up early, getting to the stadium, it's like getting there, travel, food. Like again, you live very close in comparison to lots of fans of football clubs, and so sometimes the travel cost drastically alters compared to what you're trying to do. So for some people, it's planes, not even cars or trains and stuff like that. So I think that's a really interesting point to go.
Fortunately, Southampton are in Hampshire, and I live in Hampshire. Live just on the M33, just a little bit further north.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world for me to travel to Southampton.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, for all intents and purposes, my local side, local big side anyway.
Yeah, and
so,
that is again the traditional, or sorry, more traditional standard of you support your local club, and that's generally why the family things. And obviously, sometimes the family move away from that old link, and you lose a bit of that. But generally speaking, most of them do support fairly local, unless they support kind of Prem clubs, and then maybe go to a lower down league on the side and stuff like that. But again, that's a whole different story, I guess. But we'll try and keep it more Southampton focused here, because that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So the next one I want to talk about, most of these are going to be quite fun, and I'll give you a big chance at the end to talk about maybe some less fun side of being a Saints fan and stuff as well, because we want to be covering all angles here.
Plenty of that at the
moment. So we'll keep it lighthearted for now. So to give like a bit of flair about you, I guess, as well, not just your club, but let's go with some of these fun ones. So all-time favourite player for your club?
Matt Le Tissier. Easy.
Yeah.
I grew up with him. I was, when he was, obviously he was, I think he started playing in the late 80s, 88 or something like that. And obviously I was born in 91. So I kind of grew up with him being the legend at our club. How often do you get a one team man these days?
Very, very rarely.
You just don't, it doesn't really happen. And someone of his quality, I mean, I implore anyone who's watching this, if you don't know who he is, go and find a goals compilation. I promise you, the goals he was scoring in the 90s are equivalent to Messi, Ronaldo compilations now. He is probably one of the biggest flair players the Premier League's ever seen.
He really was.
The things that he could do with the ball, and my favourite thing about him was he was so lazy. But he didn't need to. He didn't need to run.
Cantona.
Yeah, he was like, I could run 30 more yards and then take a shot, or I could just take a shot from 40 yards out.
But that says something about his skill. When you're that good, he doesn't need to. So
yeah, and yeah, if you watch any of those Premier League like goals compilations, you will see him in there. And obviously, he's a member of the Premier League 100 club.
Absolutely, and that's something to talk about as well in general. Like, again, if there's younger audiences listening to this, they might have heard the name, but they don't know too much. Again, he is a huge name, and he was an absolute superstar of his time and generation.
He was wildly underrated, and I think probably because he stayed at little old Southampton.
Yep.
Never got the plaudits he truly deserved. Three England caps.
Yeah, something like that. It's low.
Yeah, it's really, really low. And from, I think there is obviously some little rumours flying around about why that is. He was famously linked with Tottenham, and I believe Glenn Hodder was the Tottenham manager at the time. He was very close to going, and then pulled out last minute to stay. And then Glenn Hodder was made the England manager.
Yeah.
So
maybe a bit of animosity or bad blood.
Yeah, a few little rumours kicking around there, but yeah, he's definitely my favourite player of all time. And you were there at my 30th birthday.
I was, yeah.
Where, my wife got me the personalised message from Matt Le Tissier.
Yeah.
To wish me happy birthday, which was fantastic as well, and honestly brought a little tear to my eye. So.
I know, and do you know what? Like your wife sent it to me earlier, and I was like, "Oh, he's gonna love this," because I'm asking the questions now for the channel, but obviously know who your favorite player is and stuff. But it was such a nice thing. But also, the one thing I really like about Matt Le Tissier, one, obviously he was such an incredible player, and if he had got a bigger move, he might have been a bit more recognised. Like in that generation, people were talking about other big players, but he would have been up there, and people would have known him a bit more of a household name, like Shearer and stuff would have been a thing. But two, he also just seems like such a nice guy. He's been doing punditry for years and studio stuff, but he just seems like a genuinely nice guy. And that's such a nice thing as well when it comes to being your favorite player. And, some people have favorite players for lots of different reasons. They could be unbelievably good at football. They could just be a nice guy. They could be all sorts of stuff, but he kind of has that. He's a Mr. Full Package. He has kind of everything there that is going on for him. So that's really nice. I wonder whether this is going to answer that, half answer this. So the next one's going to be, do you have a favorite club goal, like for a favorite goal that someone at your club scored rather than international level or something? sometimes a tricky one to try and pull one out.
Yeah, I mean, there's the classic answer, and that is the last goal at the Dell. 2-2 against Arsenal in the dying minutes. Matt Letizia has been injured most of the season.
Yeah.
The manager says, as a quick word of him the week before in training, he says, "Look, I'm gonna bring you on for the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a run out at the Dell."
And all the applause and everything like that as well.
Yeah, you're going to get a chance to get out there. The whole week, Matt's he sat there and he's thinking, I could score the last goal at the Dell. I could do it. Stage is set for him. It's 2-2.
Yeah.
He comes on. Who scores the last goal at the Dell?
Matt Letizia.
that sort of stuff. It's giving me goosebumps right now.
It's magic of football.
It's literally magic, isn't it? Like that is. It was written in the stars that would be Matt Letizia. He scores that final goal at the Dell after everything he did for the club. That's probably the classic answer. I think. I absolutely just love that. But there is the kind of more modern answer.
Yeah.
And that is 2017 Carabao Cup semi-final. I actually went to the first leg of that at St Mary's against Liverpool. Nathan Redmond scoring a winner there. So we're 1-0 up. We go up to Anfield. It's a Thursday night, I think it is. Obviously got Carragher on the screen. Supremely biased. Spent the best part of those 90 minutes with Liverpool just absolutely attacking
knocking on the door.
We're defending this lead. We're defending. And then in the 89th minute, somewhere around that sort of mark, Liverpool got a corner. Then it breaks to what's his name? Josh Sims, I believe it was, on the edge of the box, sprints up the pitch. Shane Long in support, goes from that corner from Liverpool to a full pitch length counter attack. Shane Long slots it home. 2-0 in aggregate. Game over. Honestly, the scenes there, that was phenomenal. Buzzing, absolutely, like both the wife and I were absolutely buzzing about that.
And I do find that most people's favorite goals, it's not necessarily like, some of the time it can just be like an outrageous goal, but most of the time it comes with a story. So it's like that it was a big game against Liverpool on the replay, etc., and it builds that magical moment altogether.
It is phenomenal.
And I love asking people that question, because most people have like my favorite goal, and then sometimes obviously it might not be their club, but I like to find out if it is their club or an international goal maybe, or anything like that. But I also find it so fascinating that the players obviously tend to change on the generation, because you could be like, you could ask a Saints fan today that might be an awful lot younger than you, and they might be like, well, it wasn't there, or it was that, or it was something different. But people always have different answers, and I love that. I think one of the reasons I'm going to love doing this series so much, it's the special stories, and it's why it connects to you personally, why your club connects to you. And it's so amazing to me that a club, like a club, can have millions and millions of supporters, but you all love the club for the same reason, but you also all love it for different reasons, and it's different stories, and that's what it's so special. But that's a really cool answer. I mean, on that, we can go to like a similar escort. We've talked about your all-time favorite player. Do you have a favorite player this season, or like the club or the squad this season or the last few years? Is there anyone that sticks out?
I guess a special mention to Prowsey.
Yeah, I thought you might.
He's a bit off the boil this season, but and that red card that we won't talk about has ruined his consecutive games
streak.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame, because he played the whole of the last 2 seasons without having a game off. So maybe it's time for a rest anyway. So we can't really argue too much with that.
True.
He could, he could be the next Letizia in terms of staying with the club.
Yeah. Especially after this summer, I think that might be him, with all the rumours. And now he's, looking to fully stay there, and he's committed, and that's what.
I mean, we've he's been with us since we were a kid, since he was a kid, and I think he was a skate as well. When he I think he comes from Portsmouth, so obviously he's gone over to the Saints academy. He's been there ever since. I mean, I remember playing Football Manager 2012, and I remember him coming up as a young kid with Adam Lallana
Yeah.
on that. It might even be earlier than that. God, I remember playing like late noughties, early teens, football managers, and him coming up as a, as a kid in there. So yeah, I think, and he's grown with us. He's what I love about him at the moment. He's such a shithouse. He used to be too nice, I think.
Yeah.
He's got a proper little. Do you remember when he played for England a little while ago and he scuffed up the penalty spot?
Yeah.
And then they missed the penalty. Like that sort of, you just love to see it. A bit cheeky, isn't it? It's just a little bit cheeky.
I think though, like he's probably quite he is not probably, he is a very popular person at your club. Obviously, he's club captain, but he has a lot of qualities that lots of people like. He's got the loyalty, he's got the he's got the talent to back it up, and he does seem like a nice guy. I said he's got these things he's bringing to his game, but he's an all-round nice player. But I always find asking people their favorite players really interesting, because lots of the time I find it tends to be, if you played football specifically as well, you tend to have a favorite player in a position you played more than anything else, because you watch them for more than anything else.
I'd never played centre mid.
Yeah, I know.
That's I played quite a few positions around the park, but I never played centre mid.
But I just there's lots of people I've talked to. Obviously, I'll probably do an episode of my club myself. But like, I always played in the mid. It doesn't matter if it was like right wing or quite a lot of time centre mid was my normal position. But like, so like when I talk about like my favourite players or players, that it generally always is from that midfield, because I'm always then watching them being like, well, I used to, and you used to, like, you pick up on them more. But from that, I've actually got another question, which I haven't even got down on my sheet, but actually it's just occurred to me as well. I mean, do you want to briefly touch on, because it's an incredible thing, Southampton have a hell of an academy.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, if you think about some of the names you can rattle off from that academy, Wayne Bridge, Gareth Bale, Adam Lallana, Theo Walcott, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah.
There's some seriously big names
scattered through the Prem, just Southampton academy players.
Alan Shearer.
Yeah. Wow.
There's some real big names out there, and not only that, is we also maybe not so much the last few years, but certainly before, we were very good at signing young prospects.
Yeah.
And obviously the Liverpool team we have now has pretty much stripped a lot of that out from us, but we look at Van Dijk and we look at Sadio Mane,
Luke Shaw for United.
Luke Shaw, another one from the academy there as well. It's nice to be a Saints fan for these youngsters coming through, and even now we look at somebody, Nathan Teller. He looks like he's going to be mustard, and stuff like. So we signed that. Actually, I should have mentioned Tino as well. Tino Livramento. Obviously, we've literally just signed him from Chelsea's academy. He was their academy player of the year last year. 18, gone straight into that first team squad, and he looks like possibly the best player we've had at Saints for a long, long time. And there was a lot of questions about why Chelsea put and the rumor was about £40 million buyback clause in. When we signed him for 5, I can see why. I can seriously see why. So I think we are a club that's attractive for younger players, because definitely. we can't compete with the big boys in terms of spending. But what we can do is get these hot prospects. And we say to them, look, you come to us for a few years, get your name on the get your head down, get your name on the team sheet. In a few years' time, the big squad will come, the big clubs will come knocking.
Absolutely. And the reason I bring it up as well is because obviously the club that I support as well has a very big academy and a very special academy. And we probably have, if not the top 2, then at very least looking at the top anyway. And I pride myself on my club having such a good academy and bringing these players through prospect and not necessarily buying them all. So that's something definitely to talk about, because that is a huge feather in the cap of the Saints as a whole, as a club.
Absolutely. It's a nice thing to say and to think about. A lot of these massive players who are still representing huge and big sides, and elite levels now, and to think that they came from us is really cool.
And that's in its own way, that is legacy of Southampton going on, when you're seeing Luke Shaw, scoring in the Euros final, that is partly due to Southampton and the way he developed there, and that again is something to take pride in. I know they go to other clubs, and that is what it is. But as you said, sometimes they're using Southampton for that. Come have a go, get your head down, and we'll make you into a superstar because we've got the facilities. Yeah. So that's something really cool. What else? I mean, this one here. I mean, you could literally have a whole episode on this, and it's going to be really difficult for you to think of one. So by all means, chuck a few out. Do you have a favorite memory of your club? Like anything that, I don't know, it could be a game, it could be a moment, it could be anything.
So my first actual game that I went to was a testimonial match. And I was quite old. I think I must have been about 15. It was the first time I actually went to a game.
Yeah.
And I think it was a present that like my parents had paid for me and my brother to go.
Yeah.
And it was Klaus Lundekvarm's testimonial. It's against Celtic. It was like a newly built St Mary's at the time as well, and Matt Letizia, who had retired a few years prior, actually put the shirt on and came on.
Oh, amazing!
So I managed to get to see him. Obviously not in his prime, not anything like that, but he did try an audacious chip from about 40 yards out that landed just the wrong side of the post.
Still got it.
But that was a very good memory. Obviously, for a few years we were languishing down in League One.
Yeah.
I remember, probably not a good memory, but I remember the season we went down. And Portsmouth went up, and I was actually at like a Haven holiday camp, and I used to spend all day at the bloody football pitch there, just like playing football. And there was this little dickhead in a Pompey shirt there, just giving me nothing but shit all week about it. At that time I think it was newly named the Coca-Cola Championship as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And the guy's like, "Oh, do you like drinking Coca-Cola, do you?" And all that sort. I was like, "Oh, mate."
Classic.
But watching them come back up. Climbing up from League One Championship back to back, that was great. And I remember actually, I remember that Championship season. I think was the season I kind of fell back in love with football, because I think I'd stopped playing a couple of years before that, and there were kind of other things that were going on in my life that took more of a front seat to football. I still supported them, I still followed them, but it just wasn't as important. And it also is a lot harder to keep track with your team if they're not in the Premier League.
Yeah,
100%. Because back in those days, obviously I didn't have tons of money, so I couldn't go and watch them all the time. But also at the same time, like, you couldn't get any streams or anything.
Yeah.
So I was literally watching. I was staying up until like bloody 11:30 for the Football League show.
Yeah.
After match of the day or whatever. Having to watch it like that. But I remember that Championship season, and that was the season I was kind of falling back in love with it. I remember beating Leeds 3-0 on the opening day, and then that day that we got automatic promotion back into the Championship, back into the Premier League from the Championship. That was a special day.
I'm sure.
And I remember that actually. I cooked a lasagna that day. That's how I remember what I was doing. But honestly, it was such a phenomenal day. That was a very good memory.
And that's also such a nice story, is that you've got like following your club through thick and thin. Your club's gone from the top flight back down and following all the way back up and stuff. And that's, for me, again, people can have differing opinions. For me, if I support a club or a team, that's my team for life. And no matter what, through thick and thin, no matter what happens, if my team got relegated or even relegated a few leagues, I would still be supporting that team. But you do make a very good point that, unfortunately, the lower down you get, the harder it is to follow. And so sometimes that has a massive effect on fan bases and new fans and stuff as well, because quite a lot of the times parents might have been a fan of a certain club, but then they get relegated, and then their child might be like, well, actually, I'm interested in watching something that I can watch every week on the TV and my mates will talk about and stuff. So that does have a massive effect into what you do.
Yeah, it does. And I think that we're going to get there in terms of it won't be long, I think, before there is a football streaming deal, because every other bloody country in the world can watch English football,
and for reasonably really good prices, not outrageous, like not paying. Go on, sorry.
The example I use all the time is the NFL Game Pass app. I think it's £120 for the year.
Yeah.
You get to watch every single game on there. If the game has got rights elsewhere, so like we have Sky and BT Sport here, the game is blacked out on the app until 24 hours after.
Yes, you can watch it after that.
Why can't we have that?
Again, I think we will have an episode on this as a special on Community FC anyway, because how expensive it is to watch football, let alone in real in TV, not even in real life at the stadiums, is outrageous. And when all the other countries have deals where you can pay that fee, even though it's still a lot of money, it works out a lot better than paying like £12 a game week or something for a Now TV pass or whatever it is. And if you're lucky enough to have,
and even Sky, then, you're not going to get all the games.
Exactly, with the 3 o'clocks and all the stuff.
I think one of the positives out of COVID has been that kind of the stop has come out the bottle there. People are used to watching everything they want to watch. Like, Premier League wise, obviously, there's still a bit of a gap. But they did have that streaming service, didn't they, for the league, for the Football League, I believe.
Yeah, I think they did back then.
Yeah,
it's just something that we need to get better on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, when they stop bidding against each other, we'll get that. Anyway, we'll save that 100%. For another time. We'll go back to about Southampton. We talk about it another time. But I do agree with you, and you bring up some good points about, again, how hard it is with the lower leagues to support your team necessarily. So we've talked about when I've got down here, when did you last go? I mean, I haven't got too many more questions. I've got a few, which are maybe more you can elaborate on and kind of take this any way you want. I want this to be very much a forum of you talking about anything you want for your club. You're representing Saints. And so I've got the last 3 questions. I'll kind of chuck them all at once, and we can go for a few of them. So the first one is actually, let's do one first and we'll go to the other one. So this one, a bit of a hypothetical. Where do you see your club in 5 and then 10 years time? Hypothetically, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to go up to more kind of back to where you were, fighting for the 10th to 7th? Do you think you're going to stay the same? Do you think you're going to get relegated? What do you think?
I'd love to say that we'd climb. I think we've got the ambition from the manager. Despite Ralph's problems, and you know how I feel about Ralph. You've watched a lot of games with me this season.
Yeah.
I think the problem we have potentially, the problem's our owner. He's not a terrible owner in the fact that he's not stripping the club of assets. But at the same time, he's not investing. And in this league, you need to invest.
Yep.
And that's where we're really coming unstuck at the moment, is that, we're looking at teams that are around us, teams like Aston Villa, spending 100 million like it's nothing.
The money. Yeah.
Yeah, 30 million on Danny Ings, 30 million on Buendia, and we had to get Danny Ings out in order to sign Adam Armstrong for 15 million, whatever it was, and that was pushing it a little bit. We're comfortable doing deals more in the kind of 10 million pound mark.
Yeah.
Which might have worked previously, and you know what, there has been a lot of good signings we made around. Pella, Mane, Tadic, all of them were around about 10 million pounds.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's only so many of those players in the world. And trying to get that, and that's kind of what we're trying to do, is get that cheap potential. But the problem is we might not necessarily have the time for that potential to develop into a fully fledged player.
Fluctuate and sell like a Mane or something. Yeah, exactly.
We've had a real big problem at centre half for the last few years. Since we sold Van Dijk, really, we've had a big problem there. And we got Jan Bednarek in. He was okay. Vestergaard was okay for about 3 months at the start of last season. We signed Salisu the season before last, and only now is he ready. And I think he could be the real deal. He's a good player. He's very good. But he's taken a year to get up to speed. We can't really afford that. We need to be putting another £10 million in and getting a player that's ready.
It's that awkward situation where you can wait for these people, but at the same time, sometimes you can't wait if you're in more of a relegation battle than you might have been other seasons. You've got to hit the ground running at the same time.
It's frustrating because I think on paper we've got a great side.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the games that we play, it's frustrating because we should win, or we should be getting points. Stupid things like seem to always pop up and cause us to drop points. Little momentary lapses, switching off every now and again. On paper, we've got a very good squad. I think we've got a competitive squad.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating that it's not the vision's not being brought through at this point.
So are you
And
saying that you think more the same is where you're going to be, is what you're saying?
yeah, and I think until we get new investment, I think the direction of the leadership. I mean, with the board are doing great. I think it's the owner that's the problem. The club itself, the stadiums could do with, like, the seats could do with a freshen up. You know what I mean? They're faded. Things are starting to look a little bit shabby. And I think that's a sign of our owner not really being there, not really being an influence throughout the squad. He's trying to sell it, but the problem is he wants the money he paid for it, and unfortunately we're not worth the same amount as we were 4 years ago. When he bought us, and that's the problem. I believe he bought us to invest in, but that was just before China changed the laws. And he couldn't take any of his money out of China.
So it's a very unfortunate situation there. So I think you're saying that if the owner stays the same, and you're going to kind of stay the same, but if you get new investment, then potentially that's where you might see the rise again and the push, which is, I think, is actually a very fair and good insight into what Saints fans should be kind of expecting, and other fans alike. I think I've gotten here. Well, we've kind of talked about it, so you can talk about it again. So I was going to be like, is there anything you don't like about your club? And I did put like owners, managers, like lots of people want to talk about different stuff.
The owner is one. I don't know how I feel about Ralph Hasenhüttl right now.
I mean, I do. Dodgy place right now. So
you know me, I've literally been like Ralph in throughout all of this. And he's gotten, I think, better this season in terms of his tactics. He's starting to make substitutions early. However, he did bring Shane Long on the other day. I don't know in what day and age, like in 2021, how do you bring Shane Long on the pitch? I just don't know that anymore. When you've got Nathan Teller, like, how does he not get on the pitch? I just don't understand. Obviously, I'm not a Premier League manager. I don't have badges and qualifications. Sure, I've won a few trophies with Southampton on Football Manager, but at the end of the day, he's the one getting paid the big bucks to make these decisions. But I just and I think a lot of the Saints fan base are probably in the same sort of thinking as me.
It's one of those awkward ones. You're kind of from my perspective, what you see is you've got him doing a better job than sometimes, but then it's like you've got that gamble. If you move manager and you move on, and that kind of, does he then change the philosophy of the squad? Does it then not work as well? Does it take a lot of time to implement the new ideas? Sometimes it's better to stick with the person that you know rather than you, but sometimes it's crying out. The problem is, I think get it. Yeah,
I think personally, I wouldn't be opposed to a change in management. But I just don't know who that would be.
Okay.
That's the real question. I don't know if there's anyone out there at the moment who is a better fit. Who would be ambitious. I don't want your bloody Sam Allardyce's, your Steve Bruce's. I don't want someone like that. We had that with Mark Hughes and it failed catastrophically. What we need is someone with a little bit of drive, a little bit of ambition, and a little bit of a little bit of flair, really. Because we've got a side that can play well. We've got a side that can press well. We've got a side that has a bit of flair to it. And we just need, and I think occasionally there are games where we look unplayable. There are games where we go out there, like especially halves. A lot of the problem we have is we have a great first half, terrible second half.
I definitely agree with that.
Southampton have got, like, they're consistently up there with the teams who lose the most points from winning positions. Because we have phenomenal first halves. We'll come out like that United game, 2-0 at half time. We literally played you off the park, and then for some reason decided, you know what, I don't care anymore. And after half time,
sit back or leak goals right at the end or something. You just can't seem to see the games out.
And this is the problem. And I think it's we always try and sit back and defend a lead, but our defense has been shocking. And I don't think defending a lead is the best way. You just need to stay attacking. I think that's why we lost the Euro final as well, because as soon as we went 1-0 up, we decided to sit back and defend it.
I mean, it sometimes really doesn't pay off. So you think that?
Oh, God. No, I was going to say it doesn't pay off at all.
Yeah, so so I think lots of people that I'll talk to on here, unless you're particularly having a really hot streak or something with your club, I think there'll be a lot of people that come on here and go, "Oh, I'm not sure about my manager and stuff." But I think it's really interesting to find out why you think that and put some arguments to it, like you have. And I do think that you could see him go, but you could also see him stay. Like it's one of them at the moment.
Put it this way, I watched us lose 9-0 twice, and I wasn't Ralph out.
Yeah.
At that point.
So I think you're definitely on the more lenient side of the Southampton fans.
The thing is, the first 9-0, that was hard. That was heartbreaking. That was tough to watch. And I did watch it. The second 9-0 was just a calamity.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about that because it literally just felt like everything was out to fucking get us that day.
Yeah.
We had the sending off after 2 minutes, rightly so. It was a terrible tackle.
Yeah.
Fine, at that point I was like, yeah, we're going to get a bit of a stuff in here. That's fine. Had the goal disallowed for being an armband offside.
Yeah, you had a lot of things that went wrong that day, and then the last 10 minutes you just fell apart, and it is what it is. We
had the Bednarek getting sent off.
Yeah.
For Martial diving, and then that red card was obviously rescinded.
Yeah.
But you got a penalty for that.
Yeah.
And we were down to then 9 men. And at that point, and I think it was 6-0 at that point.
And then it was literally last couple of games just playing it about and having fun at that point, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I didn't feel too bad about that one because I was like, if I'm being honest, the referee has literally just done this to us.
But you do make a very good point that there's not many managers that can suffer two ginormous defeats and stick around. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that is an interesting one. So I think the last one, I kind of want to angle you on a take, and then you can kind of go on your own way. But I was going to say, is there anything that you want to say to a fellow Saints fan, like the actual fan base of the Saints, or anyone that's up and coming? But I also want to play a bit of devil's advocate here a little bit, but because I know how you feel on one particular subject as well. So obviously start with some good stuff and say why maybe there's some people getting into the Premier League that might live locally in Hampshire, might not be looking at that, so you can give us positives. But also, is there anything you want to say? And this is the angle more to kind of your fan base in a negative way, that sometimes they are a bit dramatic and a bit going for the gun, like socials and stuff. Southampton is a little bit let's go there.
Okay, so to start with, I would say that if you are looking for a team to support, I think Southampton are a good shout. They're not, you're never going to be called a glory hunter for supporting Southampton. They are fun. They are a very family orientated club. They have good morals and ethics. I think also they hold a lot of really cool little records as well, like the fastest ever Premier League goal, Shane Long versus Watford.
Yeah, true.
Fastest Premier League hat trick, Sadio Mane. 2 minutes 58 against Villa.
Wow.
I mean, I watched that. I remember watching that. That was an outrageous, and we won that 6-1, I think. And that was the glory days, really. Those sort of things. But they're a good little side too. They're not the most well known club, but they've been up there. They've been in the Premier League for most of it. I think there's about 4 or 5 years.
The club is built on history.
Maybe 5 or 6 years where we went into administration and kind of tumbled down a bit. But we've been kind of Premier League mainstays for majority of it, all through the 90s, and then back up again, I think, in 2012.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a nice club. I think if you are a Big Six fan. You're kind of your highs and lows are very different.
Yeah.
You expect to win trophies, you expect to win things. When you're a Saints fan, your highs are that much higher, your lows are that much lower as well. Getting to a cup final to us is like winning a trophy.
Yeah.
We got to the semi-final of the FA Cup last season, got to the final of the Carabao Cup a few years ago. Yeah. Semi-final as well, a couple I think year before that. So they're big times for us. Yeah. At the same time, I don't think a lot of people who support the big teams haven't gone through relegations, losing players, like your best players, losing your managers to other teams around you. Lack of ambition from owners.
And generally the toll of being in a relegation zone and not being sure every year if you're going to be safe or not is a whole different thing if you're not supporting a team at that end of the table. So
yeah, exactly. I think it builds a lot of character.
100%, and I agree with exactly what you said. Like from an outside looking in, from somebody who supports for a different club, like it does seem to be those things you're saying. Seems to be a family orientated club and a family like almost like tradition, like passed down. As you said, like your dad and his dad and your brothers and all that kind of stuff. And that is and Southampton fans stick with their clubs thick and thin. If you're a Southampton fan, it's going to be through the highs and lows, and that is an admirable thing for a Saints fan to be.
Yeah. Negatively, I mean, I'd say avoid Twitter. Because that's
probably,
just a cesspool.
Sorry to cut in, probably good advice in general. Social media, less of it, the better.
Yeah, I mean, that Saints FC hashtag is an absolute shit show. And I found myself getting dragged into arguments over the summer, so I've given myself a pretty like a solid ban on it. Really, I don't go on it during matches now because it's literally just full of like people wetting the bed.
Yeah,
it's a terrible place. You've got a lot of fans on there as well who don't like people owning replica shirts. So that one's baffling. I don't know why they would have a problem with that.
Some people can't afford. Like,
no, I'm not talking about the affording. I'm talking about people who are like derogatory of anyone who owns a Saints shirt or any football merchandise. And these are the people you'd see who wear your Stone Island and that sort of thing. Don't want to paint anyone with the same brush, but the kind of player the kind of fan I'm thinking of.
And I think as well, like from one thing I'll quickly jump in was where I mean, I unfortunately, we'll talk about it in another episode. We'll have exactly the same thing. And when I've been with you, you've been saying exactly the same thing about fans. It's one thing that really annoys me is that you've got your fan base from wherever, all over, talking about you've lost the game before you've even seen because they've seen a team sheet. Like, you've got to have a bit of faith in your team and support your team no matter what it is. And let's not have a big meltdown. You might disagree with some of the decisions. That's absolutely fine. You can, and I do on a semi-regular basis with my manager. But you got to kind of you go there, and that's what the difference between online and necessarily going to the game, because people might grumble, but when you're at the game, you're all that big family and you're all singing them and cheering them on, and it's very much that vibe.
Yeah, the other big problem I think with social media is I said Twitter in particular is the bloody fan accounts, the anonymous. Oh god,
because they just argue no matter what, no matter if they're completely wrong or
The thing is, Aiden, that I've spouted some absolute drivel on my Twitter about Southampton. I've been raging, I've been ecstatic, but
especially
the thing is,
Villa.
Yeah, well, this is what led me to stop posting stuff about it, I think. But the thing is, everything I say, I own it. I've got my Twitter is my personal Twitter. It's got my face on it. It's got my bio's got about me in it. I'm not bloody Prousey fan 66. Like I've got a picture of bloody Stuart Armstrong as my profile picture. My account is me. The things I say, I own. I say these things because I believe these things, and I would say these things to anyone's faces. When you're getting bloody these fan accounts just hammering you, and then they take things personally, and then they start attacking you personally, and you see it all the time, and it's just such a negative place.
And I think that's why another thing that was I was very much going to have you involved in this channel was because we can own everything we say on this channel as people and back up our views and all that kind of stuff. But it's okay to have differing opinions. It's just the way that you go about it on social media, especially, is a terrible way that you get attacked for those views.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, once upon a time, social media was a good place to share, especially with football. There used to be an app I used to use all the time, but I've completely forgotten what it was called. But it shut down a few years ago. But that was a really positive place. A sports yapper, I think it was called. I don't know if you remember it. It was big for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think I do vaguely.
And I used it fairly frequently. And I mean, we're talking probably 2014, 2013,
Yeah.
2014, so that sort of time. It was good. It was a good app to use as a football fan. It wasn't negative at all. And I think
And
maybe Twitter wasn't that negative back in those days.
yeah,
But
and I think as well. I think that I don't tend to post a huge amount against the subject of football on social media and stuff anyway, because I just don't want to be having that arguments or anything like that. I like being able to sometimes express my opinion, but I think that's why most football fans these days. I mean, there obviously lots of them are on social media doing those kind of things, but like I quite like some of the football groups that I've got because you can chat to your mates, and then if you're having a rib and maybe you say something like you're like, oh, that's never a red card, even though you know it is, and you're being biased and stuff, like they can have a laugh with you about it and stuff as well, and that's
yeah,
like
yeah.
a thing, and that's what it should be about. It should be enjoying football as a group, and actually, like when you know back in the day a bit more, and they always use the old like round the water cooler kind of scenario, but you would chat football and you're allowed to have differing opinions, and you're allowed to have a cheeky laugh at your mate that supports that team and you battered them on the weekend and stuff, and that was kind of part of it as well. But yeah, not when it goes too far, and that is 100% a negative about.
I think that the fact that you can post things anonymously just takes the person out of the situation, which means it's easier for you to just
100%. Hopefully, we're moving in the
be
right
horrible.
direction.
There's no need to be horrible to someone, really, is there? You know, I will most of these times. So you know, I had a few kind of Barneys with some Villa fans over the summer, and most of that was, you know, me saying my piece, which wasn't a personal attack on anyone.
Yeah.
It was just me seeing it how it is. You know, at that point, Villa fans thought they were going to win the league. They thought, oh, we're spending all this money. We're going to be Champions League easy. And it was me saying, I don't think you are, quite honestly. And some of them didn't like that.
Yeah.
And would then use, you know, information that they'd seen on my profile about me to personally attack. I think, you know, it's not just Saints fans, it's all football fans.
100%.
There is a real toxicity in social media.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, in a time where we should be promoting better mental health, the fact that this is still a big problem is shocking, really.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's not what you want to see, and it does when I see my, you know, an hour before kickoff or whatever, I'm looking at Twitter and I'm trying to see what my team sheet looks like for the game, and I'm trying to get all excited and stuff, and the last thing you want to see is all the feedback from certain fan accounts you might follow or anything like that having huge negatives, and already you're going into that game on a downward like spiral, and you're just like, I just want to be excited for my game, no matter if you're going to that game thinking you're going to lose, draw, win, whatever it is. You want to be able to enjoy that game and not have
it's the people who, you know, change their name before a game, see the lineup, change their name to bloody Ralph Ralph out
or whatever, and that trending before the game's even started and stuff. So that it's not just your club, it's a lot of clubs. So that is definitely a negative that you can talk about. I mean, that's really all I've got. Is there anything else you want to talk about or cover from being a Saints fan, or what it is to be a Southampton fan, or anything like that? Or have we kind of covered everything you want to talk about?
I think we've pretty much covered it all. It's been an experience, and you know, I sometimes apologize to my wife Charlotte, because obviously she never had a team really growing up. She liked football, she watched football, she used to get, you know, behind England, you know, in the internationals and stuff, but she never really had a team support. Her dad, my father-in-law John, is a Chelsea fan, and he's American, so he moved over here in the 80s, and kind of lived near Chelsea, and that was the nearest big team to him. So, you know, and that time, you know, the Chelsea weren't all that in the 80s, so you know, we let him off for that. Charlotte's mum's a Fulham fan, because Charlotte's grandparents are from Fulham. And you know, none of that really appealed to Shah, I think. And then really it was immersion therapy, because I bloody watched every game.
And it happens, doesn't it? And then she watches every game with you, so it's
and it helped that the time that I started seeing Shah was about the time that we were playing really well. You know, we were considered best of the rest. We had the likes of, you know, Pele, Mane, Tadic, Schneidlin, Wanyama, Font, Alderweireld, Van Dijk, you know, all these kind of players, we were playing really well under Koeman and Pochettino, and it was a good time. So I think, yeah, she was kind of, and I was never not going to watch it, and it was always the thing. I remember one just after we started going out, we went away for a kind of weekend away, and I took my tablet and I was like, Saint Swansea, I've got to watch that at 3. Victor Wanyama scored in that game. Actually, I think we won that 1-0. So, and that's the thing. My life revolves around watching Southampton, and Shah is kind of
accepted.
She was forced. Yeah, exactly. She accepted it, and she was kind of forced to watch it, and then she enjoyed it. And she's now fully a Saints fan in her own right.
Yeah.
And it's good to see, because now she goes and she's a teacher, so she goes to school, and she's got you've got a lanyard, the Saints lanyard. She's got a Saints jacket on. She has a bit of banter with the kids, and the kids have a bit of banter back at her with the weekend results and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's really nice to see, because obviously she's a fan in her own right, and she loves Romeu. I think that's her favourite player at the moment. She just really loves Romeu. She likes an industrious and like workhorse. Doesn't like a flair player. She hated Sofiane Boufal. But it's good. It's nice, because that's bringing someone else into the club that I love.
Absolutely.
And it's so nice to be able to be like, are you watching the football tonight? Well, yeah. What's your wife say? Well, she's watching it too.
She's watching it with me. Which is
exactly. And like the amount of time,
people, if you get that,
exactly. A lot of the times you come over as well, and the 3 of us will sit and watch a game, and then we'll have some dinner or something. So it's just a nice little environment we've got here for watching football.
Exactly. And actually, do you know what? That's a really nice, like completely unplanned, but that's a really nice, like roundabout way to look back to the top, because we talked about quite a lot in this episode, talking about a family tie to Saints, and now your like marriage and your family together is now brought in another Saints fan, and that's going to pass down as well. So that's a really nice piece. But if you haven't got anything more, I think we'll wrap the episode up there.
Yeah.
And so a big thanks for coming on and being the first episode of My Club.
No problem. It's my hat trick of appearances now.
I know, and you will continue to be on the roundup review shows, and I'm sure popping in and out on lots of other shows we've got going on. But I think if you have enjoyed this, leave us some comments down below. Talk about some points you've got below. I'm sure Rich can jump in some of the comments and answer anything you've got to ask about Southampton, or maybe even have a little comment. I don't want to see anything like we discussed on the social media side of things and the flaming aspects, but if you want to start a good debate, that's absolutely fine, and that's completely different. And as I said, we're going to be back. I'm going to try to kind of get these episodes out if I can, maybe kind of once a week, and I'm going to try to get people from all different levels. I've already got quite a few teams lined up, most in Premier League right now, but I think it's really interesting to get stories of why people support their clubs, and get maybe a bit of insight, maybe to why they support their clubs, and some nice stories that we can pass along, and the goods and the bads, because it's good to find out a well-rounded view of a football club, and what better way to get the answers from a fan. So thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment down below, and if you want to get notified, hit that notification bell ding dong up top, and then you'll be notified every time we post a video here on Community FC. So thank you very much again. Thank you to Rich, and we'll see you all very soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.